touchdown! Bearcat have upset the number 5 ranked parents of Whitworth University. Out to Eaglesmith, 2 ball or 3. Give it 3. It's soon away by Watts. He'll take it up and lay it up and down, and Watts extends the lead.
Track Guide, Bearcat Hoop, Where Are They Now series is back. This is our second off season where we're able to conduct about these 20 to 30 minute interviews with former players of the program and get everybody out there, family and friends and fans of our Bearcat Hoop men's basketball program here at Willamette University. Updates on where our former players are at, their families, their careers, their lives, and hopefully along the way get some funny stories reminiscent about their time in the Cardinal and Gold. Today, we're bringing you another Where Are They Now with Bearcat Hoop. Where Are They Now? Bearcat Hoop, audio series of interviews, season 2. This will be episode 5 if I'm smart enough to get it posted at the right time. But our audio series where we go back and catch up with past players from the program and see and get to hear about the great things they're doing in their careers, in their lives. And it's been one thing for me going back and talking with players who've played for me, but this is a special one as it's a former teammate of mine, roommate of mine, Nik Lubisich. We were kind of the sole survivors of the class of 2001 in Bearcat Hoop. But Luby, how you doing, man?
Doing well, Kip. Love being here and being a part of what you're doing, and it's been fun to watch what you're doing for Bearcat Hoop. So happy to be here. So,
Luby, you got to. I won't make you go back and tell us how amazing you were because your Hall of Fame induction says enough about that, right? But I do want you. I think it's you have such a unique path to where you're at now. And sidebar for everybody, he's in the spot now where he can say he's in his own office, like his place. It's pretty cool. When I texted you today where you're going to be at, that was a fun tweet. Text back, but tell us. You played both sports at Willamette, Hall of Fame career, and then being one of the most competitive guys that I've ever been around, whether teammates or people I've coached, you dive into the minor league thing in Major League Baseball. Take us through that. I mean, you don't have to spend 1,000 minutes on it, but just I think people always don't have an understanding of that setup in baseball. And so take us through that. You get done in the Cardinal and Gold on both fronts, and you're diving into a minor league career.
You know, man, first off, addressing your adulation for the Hall of Fame thing, if you take enough shots, you're bound to get in. So I'm just going to make sure your Bearcat members right now, just shoot the pill. You'll get in the Hall of Fame. That's my advice.
Shoot it before you turn it over. It works. It works.
Right. No, but, I think you said it best. I, since day one, just was a competitive human being and was fortunate enough and blessed enough to just be granted the opportunity to play professional baseball out of Willamette. And, it wasn't an easy road, but I've always enjoyed the challenge. And baseball is just a game based on failure. And it's really just about learning from mistakes and learning from failures, much like life and business and baseball is no different. I tell people all the time as an agent, I fail more than I succeed. So you just kind of have to get used to that life. And I think the game of baseball has taught me so much about resiliency, perseverance, all things that really started at Willamette University through my career as both a basketball and baseball player.
And so, I think I'm remiss not to list out your bona fides now. It's crazy now. Are you 40 now?
I just turned 40.
See, this week, right?
Yeah, not a gray hair on my head. Yes, I am 40.
I've got less. I've only got a little more than a month left myself, which is crazy to list
June 17th,
out. Yeah, man. So I want to make sure people know you're the president and founder, if that's accurate. I'm reading off your website now. President and founder of Northwest Sports Management Group. So did you have this going through playing, pitching, dealing with injuries? Did you get to see agents? Did you have an agent in action that kind of piqued your interest? Where did this, the genesis of what you do for a living now come from?
I was sitting with my shoulder in a sling in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was 27 years old. I'll never forget some advice I got from a childhood friend. I was trying to figure out what the heck to do with my life, knowing that my baseball career was all but over with a second shoulder surgery. And he had said, hey, he's like, you got to look at life like you've got a PhD in baseball. You've been playing baseball now for 7 years, and you think about doing something within the game. And that really hit home for me. I mean, I toiled around in some finance with Wells Fargo and whatnot for about a year or so after I got that advice. But I knew I wasn't cut out for corporate America, as you probably can laugh at that, knowing my personality.
Yeah.
So it became quick that being an agent provided me with the opportunity to be my own boss and really march to the beat of my own drum. And some people are cut out for that. I think some aren't. But for me, it was I didn't really worry about the risk. I knew there was going to be a lot of it. I knew there was going to be some good upside. But ultimately, I wanted a life that allowed me to do what I wanted to do, work as hard as I wanted to work, and really that advice is what kept me in the game. And when people ask me what I do today, it's a really unique job in that I work with families who have 8 and 9-year-old children, and then I'm on the phone during the day with major league organizations and major league clients. And that spectrum in between there, you're dealing with college coaches, high school coaches, your 14, you 13, 7th, 8th graders, you name it. Just a massive spectrum of people throughout the Pacific Northwest that now we've really created facilities, both indoor and outdoor, where we house just a ton of baseball events. So it's just been awesome to kind of create, with the help of many, many, many good people, a business that really can show the spectrum to a young family. Again, not all 9-year-olds are big leaguers by no means, but you can learn a lot in sport, and that's my big thing. I want these kids being trained by former professionals or collegiates, and really learning those life lessons that we all have gained through all the years we all put in at Bearcat Hoop and places like that.
Where do you start when you decided, okay, you did the year, you said a little bit in finance, and you said, okay, I'm going to do this in the sports agency. Like for coaches, you're going to be an assistant, you're going to be a director of operations and move yourself up the chain. In corporate America, you get a starting position. For you, where'd you go? Did you just hit the ground running?
I contacted the Major League Baseball's Players Association and took a test, had an interview, and back then that was kind of how you got licensed as an agent.
Okay.
You weren't completely licensed until you had what's called a 40-man roster client, and that can take years. Some agents never even get one. I mean, it's very difficult. So I was fortunate to have a couple contacts from my playing days with the Chicago White Sox and some guys that trusted me enough to literally jump into my stable. So in 2009, I just hit the ground running, selling myself, no different than a door-to-door vacuum salesman, and was able to land 3 top 10 draft picks that year. And then I had some former pros that had, like I'd said, signed on with me. So I instantly had a stable of clients, really just selling myself, believing in myself, not being afraid to hear no, and that's really how that all started.
So you're out front, and obviously you're very skilled with people and always have had a good feel for, reading people and knowing kind of what makes them tick. What support team did you need? Because I know you've been able to have some of your childhood friends, some of your former baseball teammates. Like, what makes up this whole management group that allows you to do what you do?
I started with 2 childhood friends, one an attorney and one more of just a finance specialist is how I would probably classify him. And then that, those guys really helped me, I'd say, more on the business aspect.
Okay.
I by no means am a X's and O's guys when it comes to business. At least when I started, I've learned a lot, obviously, through.
Wait, you mean our business economics classes didn't prepare you to run a business? I think people ask me that all the time.
I don't know if I want to go on record about that. So I'm going to just. I was there. I was in class.
Right, we got good grades. Yes. That's what we got good grades.
Practical business practice is what everybody needs. So I had some guidance from some people way smarter than me. In fact, that's the smartest thing I ever did was surround myself with smarter people, and that was easy for me to find in my life. But yeah, these 2 guys helped me. They just they took a big chunk of what we do, and I had them handling some more of the contractual side of things, the building some relationships with the Nikes, Under Armours, whatnot, if you will. But the clientele base, the baseball, that was my forte, and that still is today what my forte is. And so I stick to knowing what I do well and delegate what I don't do well with.
What do you think day to day in because I'm sure you wear a lot of hats during the day, there's a lot of tasks during the day. What lesson from maybe value or maybe even a toolkit that you learned through basketball and baseball do you still draw on every day?
Well, I mean, I tell you, I really I love failing. I mean, I think kids need to hear that more. I know that sounds nuts, but there's just no way I would be where I'm at today without failing. I mean, even back at 18 to 22, that my own inner arrogance at that time, thinking I know everything, and I needed to be humbled. And failure has a way of humbling us if you're open to it, and allowing you to pick yourself back up. So, and now that I've hit 40, maybe I can start calling on wisdom at this age. But it's it's true. I mean, I think in basketball, any sport, especially like I said, the sport of baseball, you're failing 70% of the time in baseball, and if you do that, you're a Hall of Famer at the major league level. So it was really that's what I drew on. And then being self-employed, like I had said earlier, I mean, you can work as hard as you want, but holy cow, it's a 24/7 job. If your phone's on you, you're probably working. So I now try not to work and spend time with my family and my baby girl, and because otherwise you'll just work yourself to death. So those two things definitely have helped me, I think, become the man I am today in business.
Do you get, being, in the unique industry and the job you do you get your competitive Jones from your job? Because like I mentioned before, like if there was a game being played, you were going to be intense and win the damn thing. So do you get that outlet still? Do you have to take up golf on the side? Like, how do you keep your competitiveness?
Oh man, I compete daily. I love it. I mean, there's these, the apps we have today. There's this wonderful baseball app called Game Changer, so I can get on there. I can be watching a major league client on an MLB app, or pull up his game on TV, and then I can be watching a 12-year-old team in Hillsborough competing against some team from Salem. And it's funny, some people might think, well, this guy is the agent, the coach, the trainer, the academy owner, whatever, might put more eggs in one basket than the other. But honestly, my competitive juices are fulfilled more with these young kids because it's such a fun climb. I mean, it's no different than the Bearcat hoop camps. I mean, you're there seeing all this young talent, cultivating it. They're going through these games, and when you're really a coach, one thing I never value, you can pass this on to yourself and Coach James, but again, you don't realize the value of a coach when you're 18 and 22.
Right.
When you really coach, it's like you're in the minds of all 5 players at one time. And in baseball, you're in the minds of all 9. And I mean, it's so awesome to coach and to be really an orchestrator of it all. So my competitive juices are met in this industry. No question about it.
Talk a little about, expand, let everybody know more about the youth side of what you do, because I know you got a great facility. I've heard parents here in Salem talking about your facility that you guys have. Talk about that youth aspect to your business.
Yeah, the youth aspect really became kind of a hub where a lot of clients of mine would be done playing baseball, and some of the guys that play professional baseball don't have potential, an education out of a Willamette, for instance, and so they want to stay in the game, they want to coach. So we've created ways for guys to bring their expertise of the professional game into training, and that's really spawned into a 6 turf outdoor field complex up in Vancouver, Washington, and then 2 indoor facilities, one in Clackamas, one in Vancouver, and softball program now. And so it's really turned into 21 teams or so, both baseball, softball, where we just bring in a lot of different coaches, kids, and then we have clients in baseball now, these high school kids. We've been running this going on about 6 years now, so it's been pretty exciting to see kids that have been training with us since they were 10, and now they're getting scholarships to Oregon State, Washington State, and those rare few talent can eventually turn into potential agency clients. So that was kind of the vision way back when, and we're seeing the fruits of all that labor now. How do you,
and this is something even this is like, I just finished year 10, which is insane, of being in the big chair, right? And even now I struggle with delegation. Like I can do that better. If I assign it to somebody, I can do it better. So I'll just get it done, which doesn't breed a positive environment all the time. So something I've always tried to work on is, how can I make sure, like you mentioned, the smart people I've got with me feel valued and get to do things. How does that exist? What does that look like in the agency world? Is it because you've got so many layers to your business that it's not just the agent game, and that's where you can delegate some of these things? How have you gone about that task?
I think that the agency side of things I try to take full control of, just due to the value of it, due to the relationship aspect of it. It's such a level of trust between those clients and myself. I don't know if I would trust just anyone to jump in there, nor would they. So it's got to be that relationship you build. But the other layers of the business is, yes, I have had to learn to delegate. And as you said, I mean, our nature is to take control for most athletes, most alphas it is. But you'll sink your ship doing that. So you just have to trust people, and the hardest thing in any business is finding great people to hire. So I'm always interviewing people, that are a fit for us and us for them. And if we're fortunate enough to find them, then we have no choice but to delegate just due to the size of what we've done. Because if we don't, you take on too much, you'll really ruin that experience for the clients. So.
Where do you in coaching, there's a group of coaches that either I played for, coached against, that are like my inner circle that I vet ideas with, aside from my staff as well. What do you do in sports agency? Like, where do you go for professional development? How do you grade your job? Like, how do you know you're doing well, or I need to get better at this?
It's a great question. I think understanding what we are is very important. You look at some of these, there's agencies out there that have 200, 300 some clients managing, billions of dollars. I mean, that's not who we are. Yeah. Frankly, if someone tried to put that on me, I don't know if I don't even know how I'd go about it. I mean, I think what I always wanted, as you asked when you first started the call, that I had two different agents. My first one was a guy I never met. He was this guy on the other end of the line, sent me some shoes. My second agent was a guy that helped me with my training in Southern California and really developed that relationship with me. And I still talk to him today. And so that's my agency's modeled after that. I want that interpersonal relationship. Pacific Northwest kids have zero interest going into Florida, Texas, Arizona to recruit kids. There's something to me that I really believe in with people from this area. It's what I know, it's who I trust. And so for me, I really just, again, focus on what I do well and what I can do. Don't overextend myself. And I found that to be kind of that secret sauce.
Yeah. It's funny when you're mentioning some of these things, it makes me go back. I'm thinking of all the contracts. Is your reading through the roof? Are you like the best skimmer in America, or do you actually understand these contracts?
I've always been the best skimmer in America. I just sit there with my eyes open. You know that.
I'm thinking of J. David Thurber, Business Law.
Yeah.
Hundreds of pages summarized into a brief, like
only class I ever liked. That guy, he was money. But you have to know enough to be dangerous. You got to protect yourself. But the fine print, you got to know it. But you also have people that help with that. But yes, you're the collective bargaining agreement between the players union and the players is coming up here pretty soon. There's going to be some big changes. And as an agent, you got to know all these things. You get a lot of questions, and so you got to be well versed. That's for sure.
Do you fight the stigma? I'm thinking of Jerry Maguire, which might date us. I mean, that's an old movie now. Why don't you bring up, Gone with the Wind while you're at it? Yeah. But do you fight the stigma when you first are trying to land a client? Like, oh, he's an agent. Here comes Nick. You got to watch your purse. You know what I mean?
It's the part I hate most about being an agent. I can't stand the connotation that comes with it. I try very hard to not dress like one. I try very hard not to talk like one. I think at your core, it's just really being yourself, being authentic. And that's kind of when I get back to talking about the Northwest area. People up here to me are that way. They're built that way. They don't want that cheesy salesman with the lines and the cheap suits and all this stuff. I mean, for me, it's let's sit down over coffee. Let's go in the home. Let's bring you into my home. Let's create this real interpersonal relationship. And if that doesn't fit you, then no problem. I've had meetings where it just hasn't been a fit for me, and it sure as heck hasn't been a fit for them. And I tell every kid I meet with, if you want to be in the same agency as Aaron Judge, and that's your reasoning, please do not be with me.
Right.
Go contact the legacy agency, talk to their secretaries, and go that route. This is going to be very different.
Yeah. So talk about the balance. This is a theme that you try to strike. I'm probably sure everybody that's got a wife and kids, you're trying to figure out that scale. Like, how many hours did I do here versus that? And I'm not sure there's really a true balance ever. But how have you? You've got a newborn. Your wife, just welcomed a brand new baby girl into the world. What has that changed anything for you? Were you always able to be flexible in your schedule?
It's an awesome question. I think you don't understand this until you're a parent. Granted, I'm only 6 weeks in, but I have my phone by me all the time. And if it rang or it texted or emailed, the old expression is, try saying no to a client. I mean, that doesn't exactly work.
Right.
So I have it with me, but I definitely, I know that there's a time and place for it, and that I needed that balance. I worked way too much. I would bring my wife with me. I was fortunate enough to have her travel with me down to Arizona. We go there a lot for work or Florida, but now with the baby girl, man, what an awesome just incredible joy it's been so far to kind of let me know, like, hey, Nick, if you don't get back to this client in 3 hours, that's going to be okay.
Right.
Whereas before the immediacy of it,
Yes.
you could feel that anxiety, and now it's like, pump the brakes. Everything's going to run just fine.
Speaking of the travel, and I really like how you frame that false urgency that we can all create, especially when you're competitive and driven like we are. Kelly and I just had that conversation, my wife and I, about, if you don't text that recruit back, that doesn't guarantee no. Like, he might be able to wait a couple hours, and it won't be the end-all, be-all. But it's hard to convince yourself of that. What's your travel like? I think people envision you, or he's at every baseball game ever played. What's the real travel like for you?
It's a real balance. In and out of town, just about every month. Spend a lot of time in Arizona. In fact, we stay down there most of the fall, my wife and I, and so there's just so much baseball down there. So following up on clients, and then seeing high school games in the spring. Summers, I'm gone most of July in Florida, Arizona. A lot of national events, tournaments taking place. So it's much like, I'm sure, what you do, what a lot of collegiate recruiters do. I mean,
it sounds like a lot of crossover. Yeah,
exactly. So you got to kind of balance coming home and being on the road, obviously for family reasons. But I enjoyed being on the road much more when I was younger. But boy, I'm getting more tired as the days pass.
I'm imagining your frequent flyer mileage is through the roof.
Yeah, that's always the benefit, no doubt.
Where do you see yourself 5-10 years out? Is it just growing this? Like you mentioned, your goal is not give me 500 clients. That's not you. So what is the best version of this look down the road?
That's another awesome question. I'm always looking ahead. I think that's important. If you don't, the expression, if you don't look ahead, you're not gonna, you don't know where you're going. So for me, I love these facilities. I love the employees I've got. I'd love to see those continue to cultivate baseball. And as far as, I always feel like the more we do there, the better we do there, the better we're going to do up top. It's just a pipeline. So as far as the agency goes, there's not a lot of kids that historically have come out of the Pacific Northwest in the game of baseball. But with Oregon State's success, we're going to see Adley Rutschman go 1-1 in the draft. You're going to see another kid out of Jesuit, McAble, potentially go 1-1 next year. I mean, there's a lot of young talent coming out of the Northwest, and I think more to come. So, they're talking about Major League Baseball in Portland. This is all really the culture of baseball in my industry here in the Pacific Northwest. Kind of tired of being the little brother to the rest of the country, because we are good at it. There's a lot of talent, a lot of hardworking people, and the way that Academy baseball has affected the youth ranks in the area, man. I mean, I've seen the 12-year-olds and the 11-year-olds out there, and believe me, what they're doing at that age, and I'm sure it's no different in basketball, it's incredible what kids are doing now, but as I think back to where I was at that age. So I think ultimately, if we keep working hard at the youth ranks, it's only going to continue to benefit us at the agency ranks.
Is that baseball? It's funny you mentioned the stigma associated with Pacific Northwest baseball. Is that purely the weather? Like they can't. The assumption is they can't get out and play as much, so they must not be as good. I'm operating purely from talking with baseball coaches at the collegiate level up here. Like, I haven't been on my field in 4 weeks. I've been indoors, and that's at the beginning, and they're going down to play a Pomona or a Claremont who's been outside since day one.
No, you're exactly right. It's also those kids down there are outside year-round playing. I mean, if it's 70 degrees and sunny every day, why would you just go outside and hit a few ground balls?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's just go play games. And so there's just a lot more exposure. And that's why you see all of these events now year-round. I mean, there's baseball events October through February, which historically has been when kids should be playing other sports.
Yeah.
So, it's for that reason. That's why we have the stigma. That's why we're behind. We're kind of trapped inside. They don't think kids throw as hard, but ultimately they catch up.
What is your opinion, being in the youth part of the baseball? Where do you guys land? What are you noticing with multi-sport athletes? Is it harder in baseball? Is it more prevalent in baseball? What are you seeing?
I think it's harder in any sport. I think if you're going to be a club player, we have a young kid in our program who's an excellent basketball player playing for Steve Blake, the former Blazer.
Yeah.
He's a young kid.
Does he have a 4.0? Because you could always point him to the Bearcat.
He is right up your alley.
Yeah.
Pollard, don't forget the name. He's a stud. But, my point, I don't know how kids do it. I think if you're going to play Little League or rec sports, that's one thing. But you know as well as I do the competitive nature of parents, the way that the training now is so elite compared to what it was when we were young. What I'm noticing now is that kids are kind of isolating sports, I think, because they have to. If they don't, they're going to lose out. They're going to be left behind,
right?
Just based on the sheer workload other kids are going through. So in a way, I don't like it.
Yeah, I was about to ask, is that hard for you, being like you were such a successful multi-sport guy?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that you can learn so much in other sports. I mean, like I said, baseball is all about failing. I mean, sooner or later, go play some football and some other sports where you can succeed more. I mean, there's valuable life lessons and athletic lessons that you learn in both sports, or any sports, vary from one to another. So, yeah, I don't like how it's going, and I'm right in the middle of it. And I'm always encouraging our families, hey, please play other sports. Go out there. You want to train, you can get in a couple hours on a weekend. I mean, put the Fortnite down for a while, and show up and get some work in. I mean, any parent can find some time here and there, but no, I don't like the isolation at 10, 11, 12-year-old age I'm seeing.
That's a great point, and it's something that we're dealing with, with our 11-year-old, 10-year-old. I don't want them to specialize, but at the same time, you realize, like, if they're playing in this, less competitive league, and these other kids are diving into 3 days a week practice, that's excessive, but they're also getting the reps that your kid isn't. And so, it is such a, you, like you said, you're 6 weeks into this thing. Give yourself about 5-6 years. And there's no diapers, but there's more problems. Nobody told me about that. Luby, we appreciate you, man. This was awesome. We'll get it up here in the next 2 weeks, and I'm sure we'll have a ton of follow-ups, and a lot of people will enjoy listening to your story.
Thanks, Kip. You're doing a great job, man.
Drive and dribble, watch, double clutches, left side Barber for three. Here's Sutton, great move to the hoop, spun, and he just schooled his defender.